we are doing this for them even though they don't appreciate it. What if you stopped that? What if you didn't need to prove anything to anybody from now on? That's the curious question that we can answer now, isn't it? That we How to find people who align with your inner values. This video is specifically for the awakened soul, a more empathetic soul, who have understood that they are sometimes treated unfairly by their close ones and relatives, and that feel misunderstood generally in most of their relationships. Now, in this video, I'll share with you my personal experience through letting go of these kind of unconscious relationships until I found my High Vide Tribe, as I call it. I found the people who align with my values. I'll share with you some of the insights I've had along that journey, which I believe you're already having or you inevitably experience. And then I'll share with you a proven process, the process of finding and more specifically aligning yourself with your tribe that I have tried for other people also in my coaching business. So if these are not enough reasons to stay with me, you're aligned with that topic, aren't you? So that being said, now let's directly get into it and begin with what I'm about to share. Most likely you have already experienced that many people in your life tend to misunderstand you and in a way treat you unfairly to the point where you feel drained and you start feeling empty inside. Yet at the same time, you feel like they need you in their life, even though they don't always respect you, even though they don't always show appreciation. And sometimes it might even feel like these kind of relationships are one-sided. You're always there for them, yet you cannot say that the same is true if we reverse it. If you need them, well, then they just disappear and you cannot hear from them again. Is this something that you've experienced? Let me know. And most likely, the worst thing you're thinking is that you always try to help those people. You understand that they need you. You understand that your empathy is valued here, it's appreciated. And it's almost hard to believe that they will be able to live their lives efficiently without your support in their lives. And this, in a way, are the biggest challenges, the main challenges that a lot of empaths face. And I know this from personal experience and hearing the stories of many other people who find themselves being highly sensitive, empathetic, feeling the energies, the feelings of others, and in a way, always trying to be there for them. Now, trust me, my friend, I know you have a big heart. I know you have a benevolent intentions towards others. But what if this sometimes keep you stuck, keeps you away from attracting people who actually align with your values? Well, this is something that everybody have experienced. Everybody who is empathetic or highly sensitive. And I know this because literally I went through this story which I'm about to share with you. Most of my life, I was feeling drained and overwhelmed in most of my relationships. All of them seemed like they were one-sided and superficial, as if I was giving my everything to those people and then I couldn't rely on them, or it felt like I was used by them, or they didn't really grasp me, they didn't understand me. Something else that I found relevant in my life when I was in that state a couple of years back is that I was always escaping conflict. Anytime somebody had increased tonality, or like they were screaming, or they were talking in a way that didn't feel constructive, it was destructive. I always tried to escape that. I always tried to hide and run away from situations like that. And funny enough, situations like that pursued me. They followed me everywhere. So this is what I mean by having superficial relationships. It's like I wanted the best for everybody, and even though that was the case, conflict was always around me. So there were always people who felt misunderstood, who felt disrespected. That was me, but I repressed that for such a long time. There was always somebody who was offended. There was a lot of drama, a lot of intrigues. This is something that I experienced consistently in my social circles. And another thing that was relevant back at that time in my life is that I was always finding the fault within me. I always thought, assumed unconsciously that there was something wrong with me. And I always tried to fix myself so that I can, in a way, connect with others better and help them be better, and so that we can have healthier relationships, so that we can share those values that I have. Respect in the first place, mutual appreciation, growth, expanding one's awareness. These were important values for me. And I tried to change other people in my life so that I can help them meet me on my level. Even though this sounds a little arrogant, doesn't it? But this is what I tried for such a long time. It was so overwhelming and draining all of my life force energy. Little did I know that my empathy was actually selfish. And I'll get to that in a moment. This is one of the biggest insights I had, and I'll go deeper into that in a moment. But what happened after I found out my values and started living through them, made them more important than the connections I already had, is that I prioritized my values and the connection to myself. It was more important than being there for the people who didn't really appreciate my presence, who didn't really value me. And this was one of the biggest shifts. Then this led to deeper and more meaningful relationships, because those people with whom I had superficial, one-sided relationships, little by little, they left my life. And this took months. It wasn't instant, of course. I don't wanna make you believe that it's an instant fix. It's not. But once I started prioritizing my values and the connection to myself, little by little, those codependent, unconscious, one-sided, superficial relationships, they just dissolved. These people just become more and more distant, until actually the people who really valued me, I developed deeper and more meaningful relationships. And this is something that I highly value and appreciate at this stage in my life. Since I was prioritizing self-care, looking after myself, following through my hobbies, and really doing everything that in a way fills me up, that gives me energy, meditating, contemplating, reading the books I like, talking about the topics I find interesting, so on and so forth, I put myself in a state where I was able to let the people in my life choose me, instead of always chasing them, wanting to fix them, or trying to make them understand me, always forgiving them for the ways they hurt me. Instead of doing that, I just let the people who really appreciated and valued me choose me themselves. And this is what it meant for me to go from empathy, unconscious empathy, to healthy narcissism. What the fuck is healthy narcissism? Well, my friend, healthy narcissism is having that same amount of empathy, the way that you're sensitive to other people's feelings, having that same attitude towards your own self. So taking care of your own feelings, internalizing your empathy. This is what healthy narcissism means. And I believe every empath who doesn't feel like he's surrounded by people who align with his values needs to become a little bit narcissistic and a little bit egocentrical. I know this is a word that has a negative connotation in our society, but if we look objectively, my friend, if you've always been an empath and a highly sensitive person in your life, inevitably you need to become a little bit more narcissistic if you start prioritizing yourself. The way that the more negative people who drain you in your life, they prioritize themselves. This, in a way, is one of the lessons here. And now, let me actually tell you what is it that I was able to realize along that journey. Some of the main insights I had. I was able to see that my motive behind empathy, it was selfish. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what I realized specifically. I was able to look at how much I cared for others and how little others were caring for me, how this wasn't a mutually beneficial connection and relationship. I was able in a way to look at it almost like an exchange. What I was giving and taking from the relationships I had, I looked at it more objectively, like an exchange. And I know this sounds narcissistic, but it was what led me to this insight. I was able to see that my motive for always being there for the people who didn't appreciate it, for the social circles and the people inside those social circles that didn't really value and appreciate me, was because I wanted to prove to myself that I was worthy and valuable. And so the only way I believed this to be possible was if I can meet the expectations of everybody, then I am worthy enough. It made this codependent dynamic in my relationships. This is what I was able to see clearly in front of me. I realized my motive behind empathy was selfish. And this is actually something that a lot of experts in that field also talk about. If you've heard Teal Swan, for example, she talks a lot about empathy and narcissism, and she looks at it from this perspective of spirituality and expanded awareness, which is part of my purpose with this channel. But empathy, if we look at it from childhood, like the highly sensitive people, they use their empathy as a defense mechanism so that they can position themselves in a place in their destructive childhood upbringing environment where they feel safe. So empathy leads to safety. And if you're always giving everything, all your internal resources to everybody, even to people who don't necessarily give that back and appreciate it and respect your efforts, maybe this is a safety mechanism. Maybe you're trying to prove that you're worthy. Maybe you're trying to prove that you're safe. And I know this again from personal experience. I grew up in a unhealthy environment growing up as a child. There were a lot of fights and conflicts between my mother and my father. And this is, I found that this is the case for even if you had different caregivers, not specifically your mother and father. But if it was not a healthy environment, you developed empathy to protect yourself, to meet the needs of your caregivers so that they can take care of you. So this is how I realized that most of my empathy was selfish. And then, of course, this led to this healthy narcissism that I'm talking about. It was a natural, it was a natural progression leading to that. Then I also realized that healthy relationships, they can't rely only on empathy. Because if one is empathetic and the other one is self-centered, only cares for himself, and if you give your all to that person, then this is codependency. This is not a healthy relationship. And this is, again, what a lot of people are talking about, what a lot of experts in that field say, that empathy can be a defense mechanism. Why this happens is because we are trying to cope with the low self-worth we feel inside. And actually, another thing that's curious if we look at empaths is that they're sometimes afraid to be alone, to end up alone. Because, and I know that for myself, this was the biggest inner conflict I was able to overcome. That I have intrinsic value, even though I'm not helpful to others. I can be selfish, I can express my needs, I can ask for help, and that's okay because I am worthy of that already. I am worthy just because I am. So healthy relationships can't rely just on empathy. They rely on mutual empathy. They rely on you being able to express your needs and boundaries, you being able to speak up, stand up for yourself. This is needed for healthy relationships. And yes, not everybody will appreciate that. And that's perfectly fine. I'll get into the process again in a moment. And the last insight I had is that my values, the values that I realized I have, deep and meaningful relationships, mutual respect and understanding, listening to one another, appreciation, mutual appreciation, being on that part of self-growth, self-development, spiritual awakening. These values, they cannot exist with boundaries. They're empty. They don't have any power. So my boundaries became important. And here I'm talking about personal boundaries, like inner boundaries, and then outer boundaries in my social relationships. They became important. With that, I also realized that I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Because let me know if this feels familiar. You're always trying to prove to the people who don't necessarily appreciate and respect what you're giving them how much you're doing for them. And this inevitably leads to conflict. Is that something you've experienced? Please let me know. Because this is what a lot of us empaths try to do until we have grounded our values. We try to prove that we are doing so much for other people and that we are doing this for them even though they don't appreciate it. What if you stopped that? What if you didn't need to prove anything to anybody from now on? That's the curious question that we can answer now, isn't it? That we can explore. Because I've uncovered this process that I will go into it right now. The process of finding your tribe, the process of finding people who align with your values. What does that process look like? I want you to look at that illustration for a moment, okay? So in that illustration, you're able to see at the center, these are your values. And I know I'm not the best at drawing, but it will do the job. I suppose it will do the job. So you have you and your values at the center. At the other circle, the more expanded circle, we have people who align with your values. And you want to meet those two. Your values, you want your values to meet the people who align with them. How does that happen? Well, imagine it as you have energy that you express from you, and then there is energy that goes from others back to you. And specifically, we want to look at the energy you give right now from one. These are your needs. If you want to find the people who align with your values, you need to become comfortable expressing your needs. Even though you have tried before and others didn't listen, even though it might feel selfish to express your needs, okay? This is how you are able to position others in a place where they can give you that empathetic attitude you had towards them all of your life. So that's what you're responsible for, expressing your needs on a consistent basis. And now this is your relation to others. What you expect from them is for them to respect your boundaries. And your boundaries, you need to come up with your needs and boundaries. You can self-reflect on that. You can look at previous relationship dynamics, see what was missing, see where did you disrespect and step over your boundaries. You can reflect on that. I'm pretty sure that you can do that. Once you have that understanding of your needs and boundaries, then it's about expression. It's about taking from 1 to 3 months of constantly expressing that to others. The more you do it, the more people will in a way they can either change, they'll leave your life, or new people will enter your life. And now, if we talk about relatives and family members, I won't go into that in this video, but I want to make a specific video on that topic because it's a little bit trickier when it comes to relatives and family members. Now I'm talking about all social circles, colleagues at your jobs, friends, and acquaintances. Okay, that's these kind of people. Expressing your needs and boundaries. Doing this will protect your energy. You, as a highly sensitive person, an empath, you need to take care of your internal energetics. And you're expressing your boundaries and your needs and only allowing people who respect your boundaries to enter your field is how you protect your energy. This is a tool. And it's a simple tool to use because it's based on self-expression. Not only that, but this allows you to direct your empathy within, because you cannot really be confident in your needs and boundaries unless you're able to fulfill them for yourself. So here I'm talking about internal boundaries and internal needs, which means that you need to prioritize self-care, being connected to yourself, however that looks like. Meditation, yoga, journaling, whatever it is, you need to prioritize that. And then you need to cut the more destructive behaviors not judging yourself if you go into them. Okay, that's not what I'm saying here. It's about decreasing the frequency you go into these more destructive behaviors. These are your boundaries. So you have these inner and outer needs and boundaries. For you to be confident and able to express your outer boundaries, you need to be able to meet your inner boundaries. For you to be able to express your outer needs, you need to be able to meet your inner needs. So the game is both internal and external. This is what it means to direct your empathy within. You can literally look at yourself as if you're another person, and then from the third person perspective, speak to yourself, and then find out what are your boundaries and needs. Makes sense, doesn't it? And if you haven't done that before, oh my God, your fucking perception of yourself, it will shatter, it will break, and it will expand into more of who you are authentically if you just apply this direct empathy within. And then first step, it's about clearing the people who drain you. And this happens naturally the more you are able to express your needs and boundaries with them. It's like they start to choose whether they want to spend time with you or not, if you just focus on that self-expression part. But you don't have to. Nobody makes you spend time with people who drain you, right? It's like, why do you do it? Why would you do it? Is that loving to yourself? Most likely it's not. So you don't need that. But this doesn't mean that you isolate yourself from everybody, because trust me, I've had those periods, and it's not the most efficient approach if you want to attract people who align with your values. You can keep people who don't understand you, because you cannot really ask of anybody to understand your path. It might be different, okay? So you can keep the people who don't necessarily understand you, but they support you on your journey. So even though they don't understand you, they have that space, they have that space that they can hold for you. They are supportive, they are open to listen to you. Even though they don't understand you, that's fine. You cannot expect that from them. And even though they're more superficial, they're not awakened or spiritual, doesn't matter. They can actually be your biggest supporters. They can be your biggest mirrors in the long term. I have so many, no, not so many, like 3 or 4 friends that act as these roles currently in my life. We don't necessarily share all the same interests, yet I'm absolutely confident and sure that they support me on all levels, and this is mutual. So even though they not always understand you, and the more you express your boundaries and needs, the more people who understand you will start coming into your life. But initially, don't expect that. But on the other hand, you cannot keep people who don't support you. It's better to cut the ties with them. And I know that this can bring up a lot of sadness and grief. And that's okay, that's fine. That's part of the journey. Because you need to clear the old so that you can welcome in the new. And this, my friend, is exactly how you find people who align with your values. I know that this might have been a little longer video, but literally my intention was to make it as in-depth as possible. If you follow through that, you will see that in about up to 6 months, all of your circles and people around you, they will shift. It's a beautiful transformational process. So anyways, this was everything I wanted to share for now. I hope that you liked it. I hope you gained some insights from it. Now, if that's the case, please let me know, because this is how you support me on my journey with this YouTube channel, and I need you for that. Thank you so much. Let me know in the comments what was your biggest insight, whether you related with most of the things I said or whether you didn't. I would appreciate it either way. Thank you so much for watching. Like, as I said, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you are new to it. I would love to see you around, because my intention here is to trick you into living life of higher consciousness. That being the case, enjoy your day, my friend. See you in the next video.